So what happens is this is connected to here, and there's a pipe here. That's our overflow. So because the water overflows right there, the level is going to stay right there. And then when we want to collect the oil, and I'll show you, we'll do that in a minute, we just close this valve. The water has nowhere to go, so the water will push the oil into the funnel. And then we can collect it in our barrel.
So it must happen when the distillation is in process, or?
We can collect it only when the distillation is in process.
That's because the full water comes out.
Yep, because we need the water to carry our oil into the funnel. And we can go watch that right now because we can collect some. Yeah. Close our valve. You want to do it? Yeah. Okay, so just close that valve and keep an eye on the oil. And then we need one other person to collect the oil. You want to do it? Okay. Yep. All the way. Yep. Okay, now watch it. You see it going up? All the way? Right here. Look. Oh, yeah. Now pull that. And then pull it. Pull it. Pull it. Pull it. So should I set the time now? Not yet. Not yet. Okay. That is pure oil. Pure oil. Yep. But I thought here is some kind of some kind of the other things inside like this, it will not come to you. Look, we're just collecting the oil. That's why you opened it. Through it, the whole thing shrinks because it gets heavier when the wood chips, when the steam kind of saturates the wood chips. Saturates the wood chips. They get wet. My brain was not working, so they get heavier. If you imagine, our steam generator is putting out about 2,000 pounds of steam per hour because it's running at about 40%. Okay? Well, that 2,000 pounds of steam for the first hour, all of it is going into the wood chip. So they're gaining about 2,000 pounds of water weight. Okay. Before we even start getting oil. So when they're gaining that weight, the whole thing shrinks and compressing. So we keep adding wood chips until the steam is almost out the top. And that's why some of y'all could smell it when it was coming out the chain. The steam was right there, so that's when we close it. And then in a few minutes, we get Passover, which is like the pinnacle. Passover now? Yeah. Oh, the other guys can't see it. Nope, they might be happy. It's challenging to time it. But the Passover is kind of the culmination of all of our work. All of Young Living's work for 30 years, everything that Gary's put into our distillery, to the Grand Fur, and it all comes to fruition at that moment of Passover when we start getting the oil. So it's a really special time to witness, and it's a very sacred time.
Thank you.
It's going to be food-grade stainless steel or glass. Gary had all of these pieces of the distillery fabricated down in Utah at the fabrication shop. So everything was shipped up from Utah. And it's all food grade stainless steel or glass. And that's so that the quality of the oil is never impacted by cheaper metals or plastic.
So how about the valve for the pipe as well, right? So those are from the steam coming down, or what?
These are actually our cooling water.
Oh.
So the way that the distillation works is we're always sending steam into the cooker, and then we have to cool that off So we're pulling that heat out, and then we have to remove that heat. So we have 2 towers outside of the building, and those towers cool off our cooling water. And that's what we're sending through the condensers the entire time that we're distilling. Because we're always adding heat and we're taking away heat in order to turn it back into a liquid, right? And these valves control which condenser is going to receive the cooling water. The steam valve is this big one right here.
Okay, it's on the
Because the steam goes in the bottom of the cookers.
Got it. Are these quite movable? Well, I think they use, I see 4, and then there's only 6 types. You move them? What is that? Does that get moved to the other?
Oh, you still have those empty ones? Yeah. We don't use those. Yeah. One of them is our steam goes into our condenser, and we pull the heat out of it, and it turns into a liquid. The liquid goes into our separators, and the oil will float on top because it's less dense than water. So then when we need to collect it, we just close a valve, and the water pushes that oil into our funnel, and we can collect it. And you'll see that after lunch. We're going to...
So what do we have in there now?
This is a little bit of grand fir.
Right.
Yep. And that's all that we'll be working on this week and next week. So what happens is whenever we change species, let's say we go from blue spruce to grand fir, we're going to empty everything out of the system and just run steam through it to clean out all of the residue. And then once it's all clean, then we switch species and continue distilling.
How long does the cleaning take?
It'll take about 2 to 3 hours.
Just take all the steam and then residue.
Yep, we just run steam until there's no trace of the previous tree species.
How can you, do you test it then? Before you put in the new species? Do you check it out to make sure
it's
that
an aromatic test and a visual test.
Oh, I see.
Because you see that the oil floats on top of that water, right?
Okay.
And so when you still have oil in the separator, it forms a little sheen that reflects light. So once you get pure water out of there with no sign of oil, and there's no aroma of blue spruce, then we know that
it's all done.
Yep.
Are there still crystals in these separators?
Yes.
How many?
Yep. I think that each separator has about 5 or 6 crystals in it.
And the clear quartz?
Yes.
Are they clear quartz?
Yep.
What is the purpose?
And I have a picture from when we re-engineered the separators, and the Winter Harvest group actually put the crystals back in that Gary had originally
And they're
installed
like
in our
8 mm or something? Are they like 8 mm big? Oh, they're bigger. Oh, they're about this big.
So what is the purpose of that?
Can you put up your finger again so that I can take a photo? Okay.
And I can find that photo.
Oh,
I have
yes,
it on
please.
my computer.
Yes, please.
And I'll send it to you.
Yeah, Gary said that he found out that when you put crystals in the separator, the frequency of the oil increased and the quality is better. So he tried out clear quartz and rose quartz. I think, if I remember correctly, he tried out 3 different kinds of crystals, and he ended up with clear quartz, and he tried out different sizes too. And he also tried out different numbers, and then he ended up with that size clear quartz and that number of crystals in the separators. And I believe this is the only farm that has those quartz crystals in the separators. I have not heard that he's doing it in St. Mary's or any other farms though. I haven't asked. I can ask Kevin LaRose if they're doing it in Northern Lights. I don't think so though.
Well, we can find that picture and try and find some of them to send up to us.
Yes, please do. Oh my
That's a good
God.
idea.
Yeah.
So where is this pod sitting? Is it running around like inside? Sitting on the ground?
Yeah, the quartz are inside.
Like just at the bottom sitting?
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
For filtering the oil, we have a stainless filter that we actually pump it through into a clean barrel after we've collected it. Filters right there.
Oh, I see.
Right. And that just removes any small particles. Yeah. But most of them have already settled out because all of the particles in the water will fall to the bottom. Yeah.
呢度係落去個 barrel 度，跟住上面就係
Yep. Connects to a barrel in there.
啲油咧就會
And I'll show you. No, I'll show you.
之後就 diffuse。
I'll show you in there after you get your bottle.
Okay. Good.
This is labeled our grand fir filter, so we only use it for grand fir. And it'll clamp onto the barrel, onto our grand fir barrel. And then we have a pump. So we'll pump it from another barrel into a clean barrel. And it goes through the filtration system. And then once we fill that barrel, we will test it one more time up in the lab before sending it to Utah, where it will go into all of the products. Obviously, we'll have a lot of extensive testing once it arrives in Utah. But for us, before it leaves our facility, it goes through the gas chromatograph, and we have an analysis of every barrel that we send down, along with every extraction that we distill.
Can you share with us how you used to filter the oils and why you create this?
So before we created this system for pumping and filtration, we would pour it 1 cup at a time through a coffee filter. But as Young Living grew, that was not reasonable amount of time to fill a barrel because it would take a number of hours, 1 cup at a time through a coffee filter. It's a great way to filter the oil. It just takes too much time. So with our expanded production, we created this filtration system that allows us to efficiently fill a barrel in a few minutes and not spend hours and hours like we did in the old days. But we were producing significantly less oil back then because we were only in operation in the winter.
So now, can you operate during the other?
We can operate all year. So we can distill all year long. In 2016, we did extensive tests throughout the year on all of our species and determined that the constituents in the oil were consistent throughout the whole year so that the quality never changed throughout the year. So we were able to distill year round. Before that, Gary had only been distilling in the winter, and that's when his window of opportunity to distill was in the winter because he had other farms and was occupied throughout the year. But the winter, along with its challenges, it's also easier and more effective for distilling our conifer trees because as soon as you chip them, they start losing oil. And in the summer, they lose a lot more oil than they lose in the winter because it's a lot warmer. So if Gary were chipping trees up here, driving them down to St. Mary's in the summer, they would start composting in the truck before the wood chips got to St. Mary's. And that's a major benefit to distilling in the winter. Even though you have other challenges, you end up with a very high quality product. But our operation is very efficient, so as soon as we chip it, we can start distilling within a couple of hours. So we don't need to worry about the material heating up and losing any oil.
Thank you.
Sure. You can compare this to the fresh oil, and it's going to be a little bit different because it's aged. just got a lot of different aromas than when it finally makes it to that bottle. So in order to make it consistent, we need to let it age a little bit.
Okay.
Not so much with the firs. The firs are pretty consistent. It's just that spruce that changes a lot.
Okay, so that one is 1 year, so this one doesn't need to sit.
I mean, a few weeks to a few months.
Okay.
Yep.
So the oils, how long that we can keep it for? After bottle. After bottle it, how long we can keep it?
That's a good question for Sabrina.
Oh, Sabrina?
That's
Okay. I'll keep it for her.
Well, what I was told is it will last longer than us, because when they opened King Tut's tomb in Egypt, there were still essential oils in it, and they still smell good, and they could still use it.
Before we open it, right?
No, even after you open it, it may evaporate. Because essential oils actually not fatty oil. They're volatile organic compound. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're actually volatile organic compounds, so they're actually vapor instead of oil. So they'll vapor. Some of them, the light molecules will vaporize. That's why when you have like citrus oils, orange or frankincense, even if it's in the bottle, you have like that's because it's vaporized. That's why you can smell it from the cap, right? So I think actually Idaho blue spruce in the bottle, it evaporates even if it's not opened.
Yeah, but
This
like
one doesn't.
some bottles mention the expired date, right?
It's
So-
because of labeling requirement.
But some does, some doesn't have.
It's
Is it?
because of labeling requirement.
Oh, okay.
So we ignore it.
If it's like a plus, if it's a vitality oil, of course they have to put the expiry date on it. It's
Okay.
supposed to be a food. So you have to say that it expires. Or whatever you have expired at home and you don't want, just let us know.
I have it.
I'll be very happy to come and
I
pick it
still
up.
have it. I still have it.
Oh, have
Don't
you
worry.
But have you
Are you
heard?
ready to fill the cooker?
Yes.
Soil separated in the separator because you throw in all of this plant material and it's all blue, and then the oil is a brilliant pink. And he was really, really shocked when that oil first came into production. But the blue spruce, as it ages, it's just a beautiful, sweet oil. And that's why we let it breathe for at least a year before we send it down to Utah, because it's one of the oils that changes pretty significantly over time.
Thank you. Gorgeous color.
Gary always said that it looks like pink champagne.
This is our blue spruce.
And he was so excited. I remember the first time he said he distilled this. He was so excited when it came out like pinkish. And he said it was like pink champagne. And he said like he couldn't believe this was the color of the oil.
I know, you wouldn't expect it, because you fill up the cooker, all of the plant material is blue. Before, our cooling system was the pond.
Oh yes.
So the pond would just,
That pond that we just drove by?
yes.
That's a little patch of water.
Yeah.
Really?
But in the winter,
But why
it
do we
goes
not
out
use the
and-
same thing now? Like what changed that
can't
we
you
switched to the cooling tower?
The cooling tower solves a couple of other issues for us, in that when we produce floral water, we need to do something with that floral water. So in the process of cooling, it evaporates. So it actually, because it's a closed loop system, and because we're using our floral water in there, it solves, because otherwise the floral water is going to build up and build up, and we'll have nowhere to put it. Besides the hot tubs.
It uses a lot though.
These two cookers here, and in 2016, Gary brought out some electrical engineers from the Midwest and installed what we call our process control. Some people call it automation, but it's really just a way for us to monitor the entire distillation process. So Gary had this installed on these two cookers so that we can, from a computer, we can monitor all of the temperatures, all of the pressures, and we can really precisely adjust all of that as needed. So it's a really nice system. We've been using it for 9 years now, and we love it. right now Kevin LaRose is exploring opportunities to install process control in all of our other distilleries. See, we got quite a few pipes. If you look in here, this is our steam generator. So we used to have two steam generators, one on the left and one on the right. But the one on the right, we sent up to Northern Lights so that they can have their own steam generator. And because it's a big upgrade from the boiler that we had been using for many years. So we installed our two units in 2018. And they've been so successful that we're putting steam generators in all of our distilleries around the world. Now Utah has it, Ecuador's working on it, St. Mary's has it, Northern Lights is working on it. So all of our distilleries are going to have steam generators. The steam generator is a lot safer, it's a lot more efficient, it has lower emissions, and compared to the boiler would take an hour and a half for us to get the steam that we needed because it has so much water. But with the steam generator, we have all the steam we need in about 5 minutes.
Oh, much efficient.
Yeah.
And I remember Kevin LaRose said he used to have to get up at like 4 to turn on the boiler so that it would be ready by 6 or 7. But by 6, 7, they said, oh, the thing freezed up, so there's no distillation today. And then it's like, oh, I got up for nothing, and we boiled all that water. And now we can't distill today, so I have to turn it on. It wasted a lot of energy and effort. So he's very happy to get his steam generator.
Oh, yeah. And we would face the same problem, where if we knew that wood chips were coming, we'd have to fire up the boiler hour and a half, 2 hours before they got here. And if there are any mechanical issues, then you're just sitting on a whole bunch of steam with nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So the steam generators are just kind of like steam on demand. When we need it. So we'll walk in there and just do a little loop around the steam generator. I just wanted to talk about it out here because it can be pretty loud